Hello, welcome to the channel. This week we're going to be doing a challenge. It's going to be me versus AI. We're going to test AI with 4 scenarios. We're going to be testing it on static formula writing, dynamic array formula writing, Power Query knowledge, and Python within Excel knowledge. We're going to give it 4 simple scenarios where we're going to ask it to carry out a task. We're going to look at the results it comes up with, and then we're going to compare that to my solutions, and we're going to see who wins. Let's go. First example here is going to be some Premier League player data. What I want to do is, based off this goals column here, is I want to categorize these. So to ChatGPT, with this data, what Excel formula would you use to grade the number of goals? The categorization should be 0 equals no goals, 1 is single, 2 to 3 low, and so on. And then I've pasted in that exact same data set that we have in Excel. So AI's recommendation to categorize the goals column into grades using your specific categories. You can use the following Excel formula, assuming goals are in column F and your data starts in row 2. So goals are in column F, however our data starts in row 4. My data headers are row 3. And my data is row 4. So it's correctly updated that to start in row 4. Let's take this into Excel. So 6 goals is great. That matches my categorization of 6 and more. This looks to be working. Let's just populate that across all the cells in the range. Okay, so 5, good. Yeah, that all looks to be working. Let's unpack what AI has done here. So it's done a nested if, and it's categorized within each section of that if the corresponding result. So you probably can see the problems with this Excel formula that we've been recommended. It's using nested ifs when we now have the ifs function where we can define multiple ifs within one single ifs function instead of nesting lots of ifs here. We could also do this in a much simpler way without stipulating criteria within lots of nested if statements or even an ifs statement, by using the lookup function. So the way I'd tackle this is I'd create a grade table, and this is the threshold for each grade. So for the first 2 we have a 1-to-1 mapping where no goals equals 0, single equals 1 goal. However, from 2 to 3 we want that to be low. So in order for our lookup to work, we want the minimum criteria to be mapped against low in each of these instances, and then 2 to 3 will become low, 4 to 5 will become good, and anything 6 and beyond will be great. So let's start typing that. We'll do lookup. Our lookup value will be our goals. Our lookup vector will be where our goals are in our table. It's control and space to highlight the whole table column. And our results vector will be their grading. Again, control space. So if we commit that lookup formula, it's looking good. We've got the same result here. We'll just populate that down all of the range. Okay, so we've got the same result as the nested ifs that the AI has generated. However, we've done it with a shorter formula and a more scalable option. If we decide that 7 becomes amazing, 9 becomes unreal, we can quickly build up this table with new results. However, the nested if function would require an if statement writing for every single new threshold. I'm going to put that down as a win for Ben. Second test, AI versus Ben. This time we want the AI to generate a dynamic array formula. I'm going to give AI this same data set and give it the task. So with this raw data in Excel in columns A to G, how can I create a formula that will allow for any number of rows for the raw data that will summarize the goals and assists per team and show the team from the highest goals to lowest goals? AI's first suggestion is a pivot table. We're not going to use that because we want to test a dynamic array formula. Its second option is a dynamic array formula. So let's see what it's suggesting here. So its first suggestion is to use the unique formula to get the unique teams as a list. Then it's suggesting a separate sum if for both the goals and assists. Note its suggestion here isn't actually dynamic, and I'm going to have to drag this down the number of rows the unique has produced. And now the fourth step is actually a complete formula by the looks. It gives a fully dynamic summary. So it's suggested these three separate formulas, and now it's suggesting that we replace all of that with this single array formula. So I'm just going to remove these. That suggestion doesn't appear to be working. So it's saying the correct version of the formula is actually this. That formula does actually look to be working, however we have no total row. Let's see if it can sort that total row out for us. So our full updated formula looks a lot shorter than the previous suggestion. Let's replace that. It's actually an error in this formula. It's not letting me paste it. Telling AI the syntax looks wrong. Here's another fixed formula. Okay. Okay, so what happened there? First three suggestions here were three separate formulas, and then step 4 was a formula that was designed to replace all of those. So 1 to 3 were not required. I'm not sure why it suggested them. That final fourth step didn't actually work. It suggested using helper columns for older Excels. I've confirmed I'm in the new version of Excel 365. So it's given us another corrective formula, and then it's had to correct that formula again, and then finally again and again. So let's count that up. I've counted 8 separate suggestions until we got to the correct answer there. Let's have a look at how I'd tackle this. I think the GROUPBY function would be a good solution for this problem. GROUPBY, our rows are going to be our team names, going all the way to the bottom and using the trim range function to keep that array dynamic, which was the brief we give AI. Our goals and assists are going to go into our values, so we need to stack those side by side. Again, trim range on both of those. Note, given we have totals here, our goals and assists array is going to be 1 longer than our team array, which is going to throw a problem. So we should combine this values array with a drop so that we can drop off this final row where we have the 61 and 40 totals. So if we wrap our H stack with a drop, and we're going to use -1 to drop off the first row from the end of the array. Our function, we're going to sum. Our field headers, we'll use 3 to include. Our total depth, we'll use 1 for totals. And for our sort order, we'll go largest to smallest, -2. So if we commit that formula. Okay, so we've got the same result as the AI. However, if we compare this simple GROUPBY function to the AI suggestion, which doesn't actually include headers either, so we'd have to add to this with a VStack. What do you think? Who's got the best formula there? I think we could be 2-0 up here. Right, time for challenge number 3. Let's see how AI handles Power Query. In this example data, I'm going to ask AI how we can create a unique list of the home teams and the away teams combined. So the output I'm looking for will be a stacking action of this, the home teams, the away teams, and then wrapped in a unique. So this is the result we're looking for from Power Query. So here I am in ChatGPT. Using Power Query, how can I get a unique list of the teams from this data set where the teams are listed as home or away? I've pasted in that exact same data set again. So it's given us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I think there's 7 steps there. And it's also given us the detailed M language code that we can paste into the advanced editor. Yep, 7 steps. So to save you watching those steps, I've just pasted in the M language into the advanced editor. And then we're going to step through the results. So it's taken our source from our table in Excel. It's selecting just the home team column to give a 1-column table. It's renamed that to be team. It's taken the away team column, renamed that column to also be team. Then it's done an append of those 2 tables that now have the same column name. And then finally, it's used the table distinct function to just pull out the unique names. So we've got a 7-step process there. I'm sure you're thinking there's a quicker way of doing that. Let's have a go. So I've duplicated that query and just left the source step. The first thing we're going to do is click on the formula bar to start writing our next line. I think for our first step, we're going to turn this into a list rather than a table, as it will be easier to work with. There's also, within the list functions, there's list.distinct items. So in our first step, we're going to combine the two fields that we need, the home teams and the away teams, and we're going to do that within a list. So if we use the list.combine, you can see we can pass lists as lists into this. So after our first bracket, we're going to do the curly brackets for a list, and then from our source table, we're going to pull the field called home team. And then the second item will be from that same table again, the source table, and this time we're going to pull the away team. I'm going to close our curly brackets, close our list.combine function. So if we just have a look at how that's looking. So now we've got all of our home teams and away teams as one list. So now that we've got our one list, we can wrap this in the list.distinct function. So if we start typing list, you can see the prompt for distinct is there, tab, open brackets, then within that we're going to nest our combined list of home and away teams, close our brackets at the end, and there we have it. We've got our unique team names. This is currently as a list. If we want that output as a table, then we can convert this list into a table using the table from list function. So if we start typing table.from list, open bracket, and then pass in our list, close brackets at the end, and now we have the same output as the AI generated 7-step query using 3 simple M language functions: list.combine, list.distinct, and table from list. Moving on to our fourth and final challenge. This time we're going to be taking on AI using Python within Excel. Let's see if AI can create us a nice visual for some league data. Within Excel, I've got this league table. I'm going to ask for a visual where we can see teams along the x-axis, and then in columns, I want to be able to see how many points they've got and how many goals they've scored. You know the drill by now. I'm not going to read this out, but I've asked AI, with this data, can it do that for me? It's told me it's got it. So we want to create a column chart, correct? So let's copy that code and let's pop it into a Python cell by using py open bracket. Paste that in, control and enter to commit. We've got a Python error. So if we glance at the code, it looks like it's trying to load an external Excel file into here. This might be my fault. I've not actually said I want this within the same workbook. So here I'm just prompting saying I do want this within the same workbook as the data and on the same worksheet, the worksheet's name, and I've given it the cell range again and said that I don't need any external Excel workbook references. So it's come up with another suggestion. Give that a go. Python error number 2. This is still looking to load a workbook. I don't think it's understanding that we're working within the same workbook. So I've said this is still trying to load a workbook. The data is in the same workbook, so I don't think this step is required. I should be loading a data frame, not a workbook. Thanks for clarifying. Read the data from Excel file already loaded into the data frame. That's right, that's what I want to do. Let's try this. Python attempt 3. Python error again. I said this is still referring to data in data.xlsx. I don't need to refer to an external workbook or even a workbook name. My data is in this workbook with the Python code and even on the same worksheet. This worksheet is called Python and the cells A3 to D23. Thanks for the extra clarity. It's given us attempt number 4. Same error. I've said that this gives me a Python message. It's confirming that there's a problem. Attempt number 5. Error. I want Python code I can natively run directly in Excel using Python for Excel based off the data cell range and worksheets I've already mentioned previously. Let's have another go. This is telling us none. Next attempt. Hope you're still counting. I've lost count now. None again. I've said that this returns none. Let's try again. Still none. Here's a minimal version to test. None. Okay, well, let's count these back in the edit. I've given up now. This clearly is not working. I think when we know what we need to use from Python, this should be a fairly simple solution with minimal code. Let's give it a go. So you can see on the screen here I've used matplotlib And we've defined our data frame as the Excel range A3 to D23 that I was asking the AI to use. And then we've used a series of further code which basically manipulates and then sets out the graph in the formatting that I've asked for. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 lines of code, not particularly long or complex. And we now have a nice visual at the end where we have in grey our points per team, and then in blue the number of goals scored. So we can then see the correlation between actually the more goals a team scores, the likelihood is the more points they're going to accumulate by the end of the season. There's no doubt in how good AI is and how good it's going to become. The only trouble is we cannot rely on it solely for our knowledge. I think we should treat AI like a little helper that sits on our shoulder. We should be looking to build our own knowledge and understanding so that we can build the fundamentals of what we're trying to do. And then where we're struggling or need that little bit of guidance, let's tap into AI to see where it can help. You've seen in these 4 simple examples where I've let AI loose to have a go and produce the results by itself. It's come up with some very strange results. With the static formulas, it produced a large nested if that was inefficient. With the dynamic arrays, it produced a really long formula when we could just use the group by. With Power Query, it produced that 7-step result when we could just tap into 3 built-in functions. And then with Python for Excel, I just simply give up in the end. And that's it for this week. Please remember to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel for more weekly updates, and let me know in the comments what you find AI most useful for. See you again next week.